welcome back to my lure box. In today's video, I'm trying something new, something different. Well, they're not that new. They have been around for a few months now, and they've been absolutely smashing some of the bream in the tournaments. And I want to show you this thing, if I can get it off here. The hooks are amazing. The hooks are so catchy. Look at this little thing. This is a Mussel imitation that Callum Dow's released, a bloke from WA, and boy, they have been doing so well in the tournament scene over the last few months especially, and I just had to give them a go, and I wanted to share them with you because they're like nothing like anything I've tried before. So they're like a little Vibe, okay, so they've got that little flat top on them, but the shape of them and the idea behind it, it's absolutely pure. We're so good at this in Australia with our lure design, and I'm excited to give this thing a go. So let's go chase a few fish around these canals and get into it, see what happens. Yep. Oh, there we go. On the drop. Awesome. Oh, it's so much fun when it happens on the drop. There's a solid fish too. Oh, he's caught under the belly. That's why. Still a good bream though, for here, for sure. He's caught in the fin. Have a look at that. Well, I lassoed one last week, and this one's just caught in the fin. So, when am I going to get one in the mouth? But they are just the catchiest hooks. I don't want to get anywhere near them with my hands this time. Oh, yeah. Oh, there you go. In the fin. And try and do this delicately. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, that was loads of fun. There it is, a little muss. And here's the result. There's a solid bream for in here, for sure. Beautiful stuff. Just got to get one in the mouth. The trebles on these are so sharp. That is awesome. Incredibly sharp trebles. Love it. Yep, there's another one. Oh, it's a nice fish too. Beautiful stuff. Well, he had that and he was just sitting on it. There was no line movement at all. Wow. Up you come, buddy. Alright, well there's the result, folks, and I'm fishing on sand, so I just wanted to get out and test this thing. I've only got them in the last week or so. They've been around for a while now, these little musses, these Bremer Baits mussels, and boy, they are so effective on these bream, even in the sand, and that was the real test for me. Out of conditions, you'd probably go from around the darker water, you know, patches where there's jetties and rocks and things, but they are still doing the damage down here in the sand around these pontoons. Beautiful stuff, a lot of fun to fish too. Boy, those trebles are sharp. Great stuff. Let's keep going, eh? Well, that is another good fish for in here. Right, well, I might just talk to you about some really practical things you can do to help with your catch rates and how to fish these. One of my favourite things to do is load them with scent. So every kind of 10 to 15 minutes, I'm just using, this is a great product by Luke and Renee. It's called Stink Finger, and I just jam the scent all over it, really easy, right, without getting your hands dirty. And that gives you a really good opportunity to be able to get these fish, especially when they're slow feeding. So this is a slow sinking lure. I'm wafting it down in front of these bream, and they're really in no hurry to eat it, you know, unless there's other bream around, which makes it fantastic fishing. A lot of fun when it's like that, and then they'll compete over it. But generally, if there's just one or two looking at it, they'll take their time and inspect it, and if it's got that smell with it as it goes down, then it's just that extra thing that you can layer on that really makes a difference. With slow bream fishing around the pontoons, sitting it in their face and that slow sink, scent definitely helps your catch rates. The way that I like to cast in around these areas is with a really light presentation. Sometimes the bream will start to spook, okay, so a heavy cast in, you can start to spook fish. So you watch their behaviour and how they're reacting when the lure's hitting the water, or how they're feeding. A lot of the times they'll be in there kissing, nipping and feeding around the edges, and if you throw it right in close, you can actually spook them. So sometimes if you're watching, you might throw some casts a little bit further back, away from the cover, but you got to remember when the fishing's good, this needs to be right where they would see it naturally. So as close as you can get in to the cover is the way to go. Now, little pendulum casts like this, and then you stop it just before it hits the water, just touch the line so it stops. That allows for a really soft landing, the perfect presentation for a little muss in and around cover. And then what I'm doing is I'm pointing my rod down at the line and letting the line move unimpeded down behind the muss, so that the muss is falling as naturally as it can be. And that's why, you know, lighter line is better, probably like a fluorocarbon or something like that, where it's just falling down with it and not resisting it, and so they can't see it in these clear conditions. That's really ideal. So that's what I'm trying to do. And if there's wind around, I'll toss it out. So I'll toss it out in against that edge, drop my line down onto the surface so that the wind's not pulling the line away and making that muss move, you know, unnaturally as it would fall generally. And then you've really got to watch the line, because these aren't really like a shrimp or something like that, like a bait fish presentation where the bream might come out, smash it and race back in. A lot of the bream that I've been getting are coming out, grabbing it, crunching it, and they're hooked. They catch the hooks because the hooks are so good, but then they're kind of sitting there, and it's not until I just watch the line and then go to lift and I see that my line's actually caught to something, and then I can load up and he's on. I generally try to stay right back from the pontoon so that I'm not spooking fish, and my rod work, I try to keep my rod work low. So a lot of it's like this. I'm not like over the top casting like that. They'll pick up on your rod and you'll spook them from distance, and if you're getting too close, they go deep, and then they trigger the whole group on that pontoon. They're just some things that you can think about that might help with your catch rates and help your presentation and delivery of these lures into the right zone. Now once it lands, right, you want to give the bream as much time as you can. You know, as much as you're trying to get a strike or whatever, just let it go down, even sit on the bottom. Okay, and sometimes a few bream will come over and stare at it, and if you give them long enough, then they'll start to decide. And the moment that you lift it, then they'll grab it. But if you don't give them the time when it gets to the bottom, they won't come in and compete, and it'll be all over you and miss the bite. So, and I'll usually just fish the pontoons, like maybe 2 or 3 casts on each one, and then keep moving. You're trying to hit those triggered fish that are ready to go, so as soon as it lands, they're triggered, they're on. And if you pin a fish, you might get 2 fish off a pontoon if you're lucky, but generally it's only 1. And when you hook up, the rest of the crew know about it, and they just all go and spook, and you've got your 1 fish off that pontoon. So generally, I'll only get sort of 1 fish off a pontoon. But you hit as many as you can in a session, you might pull 20 or 30 bream on the Gold Coast. You know, it's great fishing. hopefully that's a few little key things that might help you. Right, now they come in 3 different sizes. If you're wondering which size I'm using in the canals, it's the lighter size, which is the 4.5. I think there's like a 5.7 or something like that, and then I think a 7.2 or something. But generally the lightest one, the slowest falling muss for me, is the best in these canals. It gives the brim time to come in and to inspect it and then make their decision, and that's what I like to do. So if you're fishing, deeper water, you're trying to get down deeper, like, if you're after big fish around a bridge or something like that, then, maybe you'll go with those heavier ones, but I like the light ones. Yep, that's more like it. That's the sort of area that you'd get them off, those little pylons of the jetties. It's the first jetty in probably a kilometre or so where there's actually loads of pylons with, maybe you can see those barnacle encrusted edges. It just makes sense. And I skipped that in underneath into the shadows there. Beautiful little fish. Here we go. How good's that? Awesome. That was automatic. He'd grabbed that well before I even got to set the hook. The hooks are so fine gauge and sharp that you kind of want to get your hands on the brim first, but you got to be so careful. You got to be so careful with these little hooks because they are just crazy sharp. There we go. The muss. Epic on the brim. Right, well that's it for the muss. I'll put the details in below so you can get in contact with Dowley if you want to get your hands on some of those. And there's a few things coming up as well, guys. The 30th of July is the Australian Lure and Fly Expo. Make sure you check that out. I'll put details below for that as well. And boy, that just showcases the amazing Australian lure making talent all under one roof. It's a great day out, and just the genius of the designers around the country, so they all converge and showcase what they've got. So I'll be up there on the Saturday. I'd love to see you. Make sure you get up to that. And there's a whole lot more coming. I've got lots of fishing happening over the next few weeks. My lures, my soft glides, just to keep you in the loop, I'm trying to get them going for, it'll probably be October, I reckon. So hopefully the interest that you guys have continued to have around those, I'm really grateful for that. And I'm doing my best to make sure there's going to be loads of those for the big floody season towards the end of the year. All right, folks, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.